Hello, my beautiful co-creators. I am so tired right now. But I wanted to make this video like in the moment, in the energy of the moment of this amazing 24 hours that I have had. Um, and I think the I don't know what I'm going to put as the title for this, but I feel like what I want to capture for you is this experience of surrender and of identity shifting and of like receiving obstacles as information and like feedback and support and growth. So I have been in the process of buying a house, and I have had a long period of time in my life where I really identify as like poor, struggling, like could never buy a house, will always rent, like all of these identities around scarcity, and I've actually like gained a lot of social connection through those identities. So they're identities that feel kind of like warm and cozy and like supportive to me, because during this chunk of my life where I was really struggling, people helped me, other people who are struggling, and it was so refreshing to be in that like mutual vulnerability that I didn't experience having grown up in more resources and with people not being as vulnerable. And so I had a belief that was like, struggle um creates intimacy, and having like all your shit together and having resources is alienating. And so I really held on to this identity of being like poor and the underdog and struggling. And within the past couple of years, as I've been doing, so much of the rebuilding of my life, I was really putting together like how to have more stability so I wasn't in survival mode. And I have now a really more stability than I've ever had in my adult life. And I've been sort of steadily reaching for more stability and then even exploring abundance, which to me is the Bashar's definition of the ability to do what you need to do when you need to do it. Um, and I'm still aware that I have a lot of like hesitance and skepticism and even judgment of wealth. So that's hard for me, which is why I probably always like say like Bashar's definition and not the wealth definition of abundance. But anyways, so I've been trying to buy this house, which is a really big identity jump for me, because to be a homeowner in the town that I live in is like wealth. It's a big deal. And to be a renter here, I feel like identifies me with this whole other group of people that kind of have a vibe and like a camaraderie and a judgment of the homeowners. But I also am aware that there's this element to which like these ideas around scarcity are not allowing me to be as authentic and generous and trusting of myself and of life as I desire to be. And so I've been heading on this course, right? And it is 1 week before closing. Yesterday was 1 week before closing. And yesterday, in the middle of the day, I got a message that said, like, basically, this, you're going to have to come up with 30,000 more dollars. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? It was so shocking, and it's a little bit more nuanced than that, but the end of the conversation is that like I needed to come up with $30,000. I felt betrayed. I felt like it was unfair. I felt like I can't do this. I felt like someone should help me. I all of the stuff, all the victimhood came up, and I was mad at the people, and they shouldn't have done it, and they've done something wrong. And so I had about, you know, a chunk, like maybe an hour or two of like, what the actual F? And then I realized, like, all right, here's what's happening. I am creating a victim story about this, and I need help. And so I have another friend who I've done the work of Byron Katie with. And I called her and I was like, look, this is what's happening. I'm spiraling. Like, I need to identify a thought. Byron Katie has the one belief at a time worksheet. I'll link it below. I need to identify my thoughts so that I can do the work on it. Can you do it with me? She was like getting her kids to practice or something, so she couldn't do it with me, but she helped me to get to the thought so that then I could take it through the 4 questions. I'm just going to write a note to link the one belief at a time. And so I got the thought organized, which was like really centering for me. And then I was able to do like some breathing and some other nervous system regulating exercises. I reached out to several more friends and gave them a little synopsis. And I realized that so Quasi Johir, who I've mentioned before, I've been learning a lot from his videos, and he has a lot around identity shifting. And he also has some videos around the idea that like when you're trying to shift into a new identity, the universe will give you tests that are just like, are you sure? Are you sure that this is what you want? And like, is this really like who who you are ready to be? And so I had kind of been like watching out for something like that. But things were going extremely smoothly with the house. And so I was like, all right. But I was also having hesitancies, like, I'm gonna be, you know, leaving my beloved neighborhood and this little community. And like, am I really ready? And do I want to be all alone in this big house? Um, so I was aware that like one of these tests it would make sense if one of these tests came. And then I talked to a person from Quasi Johir has like a program. And I talked to the person about possibly doing the program yesterday. And in the conversation, I was aware that this was like, even the person had, it felt like they were like, are you sure that this is what you're ready for? Are you sure that this is what you want? Are you sure that this is who you are? And it felt very uncomfortable. And I was like, yes, this is what I want. I know that this is what I want. I know that I'm ready for it. You know, I was like, yes, stop it. And so I got through that whole conversation. And then after that is when I got the information about the $30,000. And then I was like, oh my gosh. So, oh yeah, that's what I was going to do. I was going to read to you how I framed it when I asked for help. So I was aware that I wanted to receive, like, once I realized, okay, here it is. This is the test. And I need to identify, why do I want this house? What am I going to do with it? What does it mean to me? Because if I want to have the identity that matches like owning a home, then my heart and my head need to be connected in coherence. So it can't be just that in my head I'm like, oh, well, it's cool and responsible to like own a home as an adult, right? If my heart is like, nah, we don't need that, right? Or if my heart is like, no, actually, that's a bad idea. That's going to limit your intimacy, right? So I was like, all right, it's happening. This is what it is. I did the work of firing Katie, and I sat with these questions of like, okay, what is it that I like? Why is it that I want the house? And there's a piece that's like, okay, it's a good, like, responsible choice. Like, it's more security, even though I know that that's fake. Like, I'll be less of a burden on my kid. There's some of that. But there's also an awareness that I now, like I said at the beginning, I now know that the more I limit myself, the less I am um available as like a vessel for what like I'm here to share. Not in like a savory way, but like in a, we're all a piece of the puzzle. And if you're missing a piece of the puzzle, like it's not complete. And I really believe that each of us are a piece of the puzzle. And when we like doubt ourselves and limit the sharing of our authenticity, we and like play small because we're scared of what people are going to think about us, or if people are going to like it or not like it, or blah blah blah, or if we're worthy, or if we shouldn't be showing up or whatever. That what we're doing is we're actually like, that's greedy. um that's the not generous, because that puzzle will be sitting there without that piece, and possibly without a whole bunch of pieces if a lot of us do it right. And so I was able to really connect with that. Owning the house is more about me saying, this is something I have the capacity to do. This is something that like I'm a like whole and self-generative person, and I am not like able to be as generous when I'm in survival mode and limited and scared about housing and not having stability, all these things. So none of it is about owning a house. It is 100% about, I mean, like I said before, some of it is, but ultimately I don't, that part is just still some leftover beliefs that I want to work on. But the majority of it, and what is like the heart brain coherence, is that it represents, it's a symbol for me in a physical way about who I want to be in terms of my identity of like being resourced in a spiritual way, to have the capacity and the um, trust in my authenticity, that it is a contribution, and to be expansive and generous with that, and not hiding it or limiting it with this survival need. And so that was like so painful and difficult and fascinating and challenging and exhausting to come to through all of that. But I have so many times tried to tell you how I framed this ask to several friends. So I reached out to several people and said, please send some possibility and creative imagination my way. Because that's the framing that I realized. I was like, okay, I was looking at this as if it was a problem, and seeing the impossibility in it, and the unfairness and the betrayal in it. And what I would like to see is the possibility and the solutions and the learning and the opportunity in it. And I'm telling you, within 1 hour of sending out a whole bunch of people these, please hold this, for me. And with none of them did I say like, yeah, I even said like trying to remind myself that if it works out, great. If not, even better, and stay open to any possible solution. So I wasn't like, I need the house to work out, right? I was like, let me stay open to whatever this is meant to bring me. And that was like so powerful to be able to frame. It took me like, I was up like with this gruelingness from 2 a.m. until the morning. So it was not like, oh, I'm just gonna have a spiritual enlightenment moment. It was definitely a struggle. Um, but oh, and I forgot to say that in the middle of the night too, like after I did the work of Byron Katie, and I also did the quantum freedom healing with Melanie Tonia Evans, which is something that I've done for several years. And I'll link it too. And it's like a meditation type of process that you go through when you're having like painful experiences. So I had done that. I had cried a lot. I had done all of that. And I said, I need help to my guides. I said, I just need a sign. I need a message. I need something to hang on to. And they were like, get a tarot card, which I don't do tarot really very often. And I don't know it well. And I was like hemming and hawing about it. And like, it's not going to be right. And I don't know how to do it. And so finally I just did it. And this is the card that came up. It's the Nine of Pentacles. And probably most of you know a lot more about tarot than I do. But first of all, I just love that card, right? This is a queer tarot deck and it makes me very happy. But but uh the message of it is let me read it because I'm not gonna remember it. I'm quite tired from all of this. Prosperity and wealth and buying of homes and buying of properties. Like, oh my gosh, it blew my mind. Nine of Pentacles. If anyone knows anything else about the Nine of Pentacles, like tell me in the comment. I'm so curious. So that came in the middle of the night, and I was like, what? Like every time I do a tarot thing and it's so specific, I'm like, are you kidding me? How does this work? Love it. And then I talked to Jessa Reed, who I think 100% of the people who are going to watch this video are familiar with Jessa Reed. But if you're not, I will link information about her below. She's a fantastic human who receives information from, she calls them aliens, and has like podcasts and courses and wonderfulness, Patreon. And she is primarily the reason why I have my life that I have right now. Because I did take her abundance course, which I highly recommend because it is free until you can pay when it works, is how she frames it. How marvelous is that? And I did take it, and I paid 2 months later when I unexpectedly got a tax return. But I got her permission to share this, what she shared with me, because it was so profound. She said, reality doesn't load until we look at it. If we look for my needs won't be met, then that will load. If we look for all solutions to my problems exist, and if those solutions don't show up, I can trust I'm being moved to bigger and better, then that will load. And I'll write this out in the description because I think it's so powerful. I'm written it out and I'm going to put it everywhere, and I encourage you to do the same if you like. And then she put every single time. So I'm just going to read it one more time because I think it's so powerful. Reality doesn't load until we look at it. If we look for my needs won't be met, then that will load. If we look for all solutions to my problems exist, and if those solutions don't show up, I can trust I'm being moved to bigger and better, then that will load every single time. So here's the clincher of the story, my friends. I'm not joking. Like maybe an hour after I sent all those asking for help and possibilities and creative imagination, I had a phone call with um like community resources people that are helping me with the like low income subsidy thing, and the lender at the bank, and the realtor, and the contractor. I had like teary conversations with all of them, being like, I don't know what to do, I have no ideas. And sure enough, at the like fourth phone call, which was a second phone call to the lender who was like, let me talk to my boss and see what we can figure out, they're going to make the money go through. I don't need to come up with the money. That it was like literally, she said like the regulations do not allow it. And now suddenly it's happening. So, oh my gosh, you all, I just, yeah, I just can't believe it. I mean, I totally believe it, because instead of trying to solve the problem with all the logistics and come up with a solution, I looked at it from like, what am I trying to learn here? What is this message? What is this lesson? What is this? And it was that I needed to clarify for myself, like, are you wanting to be this person and why? And I clarified it, and then it was like, okay, great. It was like such a simple. Um, I love Jessa also said, the wildest revelation of abundance is, wait, this is it? It's this easy? This is exactly how I feel. Wait, what? Are you, are you serious? Like, I don't, it's been a marvelous 24 hours. I want to finish my time with you today with sharing this really fun painting that I'm just delighted with. I made this during our creative art time tonight, which ended up being just me and one friend, which was lovely. And we talked about these concepts while I painted, and it brought me so much joy. And I really love art. And I know I've talked about it with all of you, but there is something just really magical. And maybe it's the creative, the creation, right? We are creators. Um, and I just love it. I said to this friend, I said, I just want to be doing art all of the time while I'm doing everything else. It makes everything easier while you're doing art. And uh I did just come across a book called Your Brain on Art. I will link it. And 20 minutes of doodling reduces cortisol by 26%. So I love you so much. I wanted to share this with you in the authentic, like real time. Um, if there's anything that brings you joy or hope, I'm delighted. If not, no worries. I love you. And if anyone has anything to share in the comments, go for it. And I love you. And um, shall I read this Jessa thing one more time, just for good measure? 3 times. All right. Reality doesn't load until we look at it. If we look for my needs won't be met, then that will load. If we look for all solutions to my problems exist, and if those solutions don't show up, I can trust I'm being moved to bigger and better, then that will load every single time.